to go to tonight. Yeah. All right. Is anyone here for the first time? All right. Yes, several. Okay. Excellent. Welcome. So my name's Scott Wagner. I'm PA here in Eugene Springfield, and welcome. And so Live Lifestyle Medicine is the program supported by the Eugene plant-based providers. And anyone want to share? Any of the new people want to share how they found out about the classes? Eugene Weekly. Okay, great. Yeah, excellent. Anybody else? Friend of yours? Okay, great. Anyone else? Some friends knocked him over the head and drug him in. So I talk loud. The microphone is actually for the new people. The microphone is for people on Zoom because we this is also available on Zoom, and so this is for them. And so we just if we aren't talking loud enough, make sure you say, "Hey, talk louder." But because people are kind of like you're talking through the microphone, but I don't hear anything. We've tried that; it gives a lot of feedback. So we do have a speaker system, but it's just kind of annoying because you hear all this feedback. So anyway, so if you haven't checked out all the lending library, all the stuff in the back, the class schedule, the livelifestylemedicine.com website. I would encourage you to sign up for the weekly newsletter, which is at the top of the homepage of livelifestylemedicine.com. Watch the 20-minute website tutorial I have recorded on the homepage. The newsletter gives you all the information, all the upcoming events and classes, and all the other stuff we have going on. So it's a whole, not just the classes. Tuesday nights, we also have classes Wednesdays and Thursdays, and we have movie nights and potlucks and grocery store shopping tours. We have all kinds of things going on. So definitely encourage you to check out all the free resources and everything that we have. And yeah, with that, I will turn it over. We have some announcements. Yeah, both Trish and Jamie. I'll go get Trish, but you want to start? All right.
Hello. We are starting our very first Daily Dozen challenge. And what that is that if you choose to sign up, you will be entered into the challenge and you fill out the Daily Dozen app each day. You stay in the running by continuing to fill out the app and avoiding things like alcohol and sugar and processed foods. Did I forget something? Oils and fats. And when you sign up, you will be given a pod of two other people. So there'll be three in each pod that you can lean on when things get a little rough. That's an optional choice. You do not have to do that. And you get to set a wager. You can wager anywhere from $5 to $500. And you want to hit the sweet spot. You want it not to hurt too much if you blow it, but also to make it challenging for you. And if you are not able to do it, oh, I forgot to say you can sign up for 1 month to 3 months. And if you are not able to do it, then you forfeit your wager and it goes into a donation to run Live Lifestyle Medicine programs. Have I forgotten anything? Um, these are some tiny little flyers. I'm not a graphic artist. I spilled water on them to add to that. But, and you will need a magnifying glass to look at them, but I will pass them around. So if you want a reminder, there's a place on here where you can reach me. Oh, one thing I did forget. For new people, this may be a little steep. So we're not really encouraging people that just walked in to try this. You can if you want. Did I forget anything, anyone? Pam, Charlie? Okie doke. Great. It's totally on an honor system and you are self reporting. So you're the one who says, yeah, I'm not doing this. I can't do this. Yeah. And so you can reach me and I will, if you're interested, and I will put you on a list. And yeah, being like Pam does. So Trish, are you ready?
My name is Trish. I am the volunteer coordinator for Live Lifestyle Medicine. So if anyone would like to help us promote lifestyle medicine in the community, we have flyers that we occasionally like to hang around town. We have little flyers that we give out. We have an event coming up at the Lane County Farmers Market. We would maybe need a volunteer to help us with that. So if anyone is ever interested in volunteering, I have my email address on here. You can take one of these cards. I'll leave them on the back table. And you can just send me an email and say, hey, I can do that. Or in the future, when we start to list things that we might need just a volunteer to help us out with, we'll have a whole list of things that you can say, hey, I can do that. And in addition, on August 1st, Saturday, August 1st, if anyone is not currently shopping at the Lane County Farmers Market, which occurs on Saturdays and Tuesdays, and there's a new one on Sunday, I'm going to do a tour of the farmers market. So people can join me. You'll sign up again at my email list. We'll gather at the farmers market and we'll walk around and learn who all the produce vendors are and then the other types of food that we might want to be interested in getting at the farmers market. So again, I can hand these out now or I can just put them on the back table if anyone wants one. Pam walked away. Sorry about that.
No, smiling. Okay.
Stop me, I said this already. For all the new people, if you go to our website, Lifestyle Medicine, you can sign up for his weekly email that lets you know all these activities. So you can get that email every week.
Okay. Anything else, Scott? You ready for me? Okay. All right. I'm going to start with the farm. This is Romeo. And the new people, I can let you know that when I retired I'm a psychologist. And when I retired from my private practice and from the university, I needed something to do. And I had been vegan for 15, 16 years, something like that, and very much into one of the reasons is animals. I realized at one point that I could not kill an animal to eat. I can't, I couldn't. And so to pay someone to do that for me felt really terrible and unethical. So that's, I think once you see that kind of thing, you can't go back. So when I wanted someplace to volunteer and I thought, well, I've been donating to the National Farm Sanctuary for 10 years or something like that. So I looked for a local farm and I found Welcome Home Farm Sanctuary. And this is Romeo, and Romeo is in the Guinness Book of Records. Romeo is the world's tallest steer, and he's big, as you can see. And he's very sweet, but also you got to be careful around him. And so I decided to volunteer at Welcome Home Farm Sanctuary, and I met Romeo. And so my job after being in academia and in the therapy world for 40 years, I now shovel shit on Wednesday mornings and clean up the goats and everybody else and Romeo. Ed, the next one. This is where we're going to have a chance for people to come next week, next Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning to come down. I've got Scott sent out on the email list, and you'll see that in the next email list as well. I've already got 10 or 12 people interested, which is really fun. And this is some of the other denizens of the farm. On the left there is Milo, and Milo is Romeo's brother. And people say, well, how does that cow get so big? Well, Romeo and Milo are Holsteins. They're male Holsteins. Male Holsteins do not survive. They're killed at birth. They're killed for veal. And so we don't see male Holsteins very often. But Romeo and his brother were rescued from a veal crate, taken to Welcome Home. Misty is the owner, and you'll get to meet her when you come down, and raised in her kitchen. Now they don't get in the kitchen anymore. They're very big. And then on the right at the top, that's our new lambs. That's Fern and Winnie and Saul. And it turns out Fern was found just by the side of the road. She's the white lamb. Winnie was one lamb whose mother rejected it, which happens sometimes. So Winnie came in, and Solace came in, and they were all three about the same size. And Solace was very, very, very shy. Now he acts like a dog. He'll come up and you want to pet him. But he wasn't growing, and the vet looked, and his growth plates have stopped growing. So he's a pygmy sheep. He's not going to get very much bigger than he is now. And the sweet story about him is that a guy came to the farm and needed bales of hay put out because he was sick and weak and wanted to come see the animals. And he did. And he came out. And the next week he came out with a bunch of food from Costco. And he said he'd spent his entire food stamps to get this fruit for the animals. And the volunteer there said, "Why are you doing that?" And he said, "I'm dying today." He had cancer and he was in the death by dignity. And so the last thing he did was to give the animals. And so the little black sheep is named after him, Solace. The brown one there is Digbert. Digbert is an alpaca. And if he were standing up, you'd see he has some rather deformed front legs. And he came from a alpaca farm that was just going to kill him because they didn't want any deformity in their herd. So Digbert came to stay. And then the others are just, that's Fred. The white goat is Fred. And then there's the white turkey, Figgy, who we got from a slaughterhouse the day before Thanksgiving. And did you know that turkeys purr? Yeah. When I walk up to Figgy, she'll wag her little tail and she'll purr. And then she'll lie down in the middle of whatever I'm trying to do. And then there are the lambs. Next one, Ed. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about me. That's Buster. His name's Buster because he busted in from the neighbors and he'd been neglected and he decided to stay. And he was the first one that I met at the farm. So as I said, I'm a PhD psychologist. I taught at the university for a long time. I worked as a therapist for a long time as well. And so I got roped in to do 3 of the lifestyle factors, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I became a vegan, not like Charlie, not like planning things or deciding I needed to be healthier. I'd always been a pretty healthy person, although always overweight. Always, always, always overweight. But a friend of mine challenged me to go on a raw diet. And so I went on a raw diet for a year. And I realized at the end of that time, I was vegan. And I'd always wanted to be vegan. I mean, I just this last month turned 80. And so I grew up during the hippie years. And I had the Moosewood cookbook, and I always thought vegetarian was the best. And now I see that vegetarian doesn't make any sense if you're doing it for the animals. Look at Romeo. So I was so excited to be vegan. I just stayed that way. And that's been almost 20 years ago. And I've gone through a series of things. When I first went vegan and I was on the raw diet, it wasn't a good raw diet. I mean, it was like, I remember making cheesecake out of coconut oil. And it was really good, but, and so then I got more into the health aspect. So I started with the animals, the climate, and then I said, oh, maybe this is good for my health as well. Of course, in the meantime, I did get healthier. I lost a bunch of weight. I don't have any trouble with my weight now. And so I've just stayed that way. And I love teaching. So I was very glad to be involved here. Next one. Okay. Charlie told you a couple of weeks ago about his food, right? I'm different. I don't have Christine living in my house. I have never been much interested in cooking. And so my food is very, very simple. So this is what I had last week, on one day last week. This is my smoothie. And you just tried Trish's smoothie. And I put a pound of spinach in, and that's a pound of Horton Road organic spinach. Cram that into the Vitamix. And you can see I crammed it all in. And then I put Costco's Sunrise Mix, which is peaches and strawberries and pineapple and mango. And I put that in, and I put a little bit of lime in. And looks like I actually put flaxseed in that day. Charlie got on me because I like using flax oil because the blender's easier to clean. And also I like a more liquidy smoothie. I don't like them to be really thick so then I made that blender full, that's 64 ounces. That was part of I drank the whole thing. Okay, so the next one. Now, this is my breakfast. This is before the smoothie. I love fruit, and summer fruit's so much fun. I had blueberries and peaches that I got from the farmer's market, and I put on soy yogurt that I make, and then walnuts, and mix that all together. And that's like the best thing. So that'd be breakfast. During the day, from whenever I get hungry till I finish it, is the smoothie. And then dinner's the next one, which is I forgot to take the picture till I had mostly eaten it. We went to a Korean restaurant, Tiger Mama, and this is kimbap, which is just kind of like a Korean sushi, except it has tofu and pickled vegetables in it. And it comes with pickled vegetables. And then I have a little kimchi, and that was dinner. That was it. I didn't have to worry about cooking because I don't like to cook and doing all this fancy stuff. That was my food for a day. And I was telling Christine a little bit. I heard this statement: bodies don't count calories, bodies count nutrients. And when I'm getting the nutrients I need, my body needs, I don't think about food. I don't go foraging. I don't, I'll eat my breakfast. I'll be well. I'll do my smoothie. I'll be fine. Tonight. Okay, you're going to laugh. Tonight. Okay, I thought, well, maybe I should eat before I go because all I'd had was my breakfast and my smoothie. So I opened a can of beans. I did a British thing. I opened a can of beans and put it on a piece of whole grain bread. That was it. And so I don't have to think about any food now until, I don't know, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So that's how I eat. So very different. And I may not get the variety of plants, although my fruit changes. and sometimes I use spinach, sometimes I use kale, sometimes I use chard. And then sometimes sometimes I'll have a salad, and I love tofu. So I'll cook tofu in the air fryer and stick it on a salad at night. So that's simply what I do. Any questions? It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, it's weird. Okay. Okay. Next one. Okay. So I'm going to back up a little bit. As you can see here, there are 6 factors in lifestyle medicine. We have eating more plants, staying calm, which is stress management, cultivation, connection, exercise, sleeping, and avoiding toxic substances. Those are the 6 pillars. So the next one, Ed. There they are. And in this group, we emphasize the eating plants, healthy eating. And there's a good reason for that. The reason is that it's fairly easy to do. You can choose between a Hershey's bar and an apple. You can start doing that kind of thing. You can't crawl into bed every night and sleep well. You can't decide you're going to sleep. If you're stressed, you maybe can't decide what to do about that. So we spend emphasis on healthy eating will impact all of these other things. And I hope tonight I'll be able to show you how healthy eating impacts sleep. If you're not eating well, then you're probably not going to sleep well. I think I'll get to that later. Bodies are like toddlers. So these pillars dance together. They affect each other. So healthy eating affects your cognitive structure. It affects how well you think. That leads you to make better decisions that maybe you're now going to avoid that glass of wine. Or healthy eating will give you more energy, and so it's easier for you to go out and do the exercise. And doing the exercise interacts with the stress, because exercise is a really good stress reduction thing. So they're always dancing together. And I'm going to spend a little time going over each one and show how that happens. So the next one. So they're all important and they dance. Okay, I already said that. Next one. Okay, so healthy eating. We can address that one. And this is just a review. I'm not going to spend very much time here. This is what Scott and Charlie do, is that we know that healthy eating has a big effect on chronic illness, cardiovascular, diabetes, everything. But healthy eating also affects our psychology, our emotions. It affects depression and anxiety and sleep. So that's a big one. The next one then. Okay, avoiding harmful substances, tobacco, alcohol, some of the other fun stuff. You get improved organ function, so enhances the function of lungs, liver, heart, and brain. The effect of avoiding these on mental health improves mood, cognitive function, emotional stability, lowering the risk of depression and anxiety. You get more energy and productivity, better sleep, increased energy levels, and enhanced immune system. Yesterday, I had a big day. I'm helping my granddaughter move. And after the move, I'm still exhausted from it. We went out for lunch. And she's 24 and she wanted a drink. So I thought, okay, I'll have wine. I don't remember the last time I had a glass of wine, but I don't know. Again, I got it. I drank a little bit of it. Maybe I drank half. Maybe I only drank a third of this glass of wine. I don't know. As we were talking and celebrating about her finally getting into an apartment. And it really affected me. Driving home, I thought, I shouldn't be driving. And it was like that much wine. And so, especially if you stay away from these things and you get back to them, you realize the power of them. So that's another one. Next one. Exercise. We all know this. It helps you. Exercise is good for you. And Kathy's going to talk about this later, but, and exercise is one of those you can address directly. Are you going to lie down after you eat dinner, or are you going to walk around the block? You can make that decision and do it. So that's another one. And it plays into all of these. Mood, reduces anxiety, enhances cognitive function, and promotes better sleep. So again, you have them dancing together. And then the next one, now we get on what I'm starting. You want to click that first link, Ed? I was working.
What actually happens inside your body when you're stressed? It all begins in the brain. The moment your brain detects a threat, a powerful survival system switches on. Within seconds, stress signals spread through the nervous system. The adrenal glands release hormones like adrenaline and cortisol into the bloodstream. Almost immediately, your heart starts beating faster. Blood pressure rises and circulation increases. Your body redirects blood toward muscles that may need to react quickly. At the same time, digestion becomes less important. The body temporarily shifts resources away from the digestive system and focuses on survival. Inside the brain, alertness and threat monitoring centers become highly active. This can help you react to danger, but it also keeps the brain on high alert. As stress continues, muscles often remain tense, especially around the neck, shoulders, and jaw. If stress becomes chronic, the effects can spread much further. The immune system may function differently, recovery processes can slow down, and sleep quality may be affected. Over time, stress can influence multiple systems throughout the body at once. The good news is that the body also has powerful recovery mechanisms. When stress decreases, heart rate can normalize, muscles can relax, digestion can improve, and the brain can return to a more balanced state. Stress isn't just a feeling. It's a full-body biological response happening from your brain to nearly every organ system in your body.
Okay. And now back. Oh. I don't know what that is. Back to the slides. There we go. So we can see the physical effects here of stress. Cardiovascular issues, immune system weakening. Also, if you're under extreme stress for a long period of time, you develop anxiety, perhaps depression, sleep disturbances, and again, that cognitive impairment. Now, the good news is, and that's what we'll talk about tonight, it's like, yes, if you're almost in an automobile accident, all of that gets activated. And as the video said, it will often come back to normal, but there are things that we can do in our minds that help that process, and I'll get to that. So next one, Ed. Sleep deprivation. Do not deprive yourself of sleep. For the longest time, it's like, well, yeah, sleep when you want to, but now we're knowing more and more and more that sleep deprivation is extremely unhealthy. And so you can eat the best plant-based diet in the world, and if you're sleeping 5 hours a night or 4 hours a night, or not paying attention to your chronotype and circadian rhythms, you're not going to be healthy. You just can't be healthy. So We know that there's impaired memory and learning capabilities. Our brains consolidate at night. They consolidate memories. There's been some really interesting studies with rats, the terrible things that psychologists do to rats. So rats will learn a maze during the day. And then the experimenters have put a little probe into their brain at certain neuronal connections. And the rats learn the maze, and they can see which neurons are firing. And then the rats go to sleep, and you see those same neurons firing. So it's like during the night, the rats are rehearsing the maze. And if they're given good sleep, they do better the next day. If they're deprived of sleep, then they do worse the next day. And that's very true. Teaching in college for 40 years, very, very true of students as well. You know, you think you can pull an all-nighter. It doesn't work, and they never learned. I tried. And of course, you get increased irritability, mood swings, high levels of stress hormones, elevated blood pressure. And then the last link is Gregor talking about we got a couple of minutes of Gregor. So click on that last one.
There's a perception that time spent asleep is time wasted, but it's widely recognized that inadequate sleep is associated with multiple acute and chronic conditions and results in an increased risk of death and disease. Force people to go 1 week with only 6 hours of sleep a night, and you can change expression of more than 700 genes. The most dire effect may be endothelial dysfunction. The endothelium is the thin layer of cells that covers the internal surface of blood vessels and is responsible for allowing our arteries to relax and dilate back open properly. Randomize people for about a week to get 5 rather than 7 hours of sleep, and just that 2-hour difference a night resulted in a significant impairment in artery function. Okay, but what do these numbers mean? I mean, how bad is a week of 5-hour nights? Sleep deprivation is no joke. The magnitude of impairment is similar to that reported in people who smoke, have diabetes, or have coronary artery disease. No wonder people who sleep less than 7 hours a night may experience a 12 to 35% increased risk of premature death compared to those who get a full 7 hours. Yet a significant proportion of the population may routinely get less than that. Sufficiently long, restful sleep sessions each night are said to be an indisputable cornerstone of good health. Okay, so what can we do about it? Okay. Those who have a sleep apnea.
Oh, no, I think a couple more minutes, Ed.
Apnea, a common consequence of obesity that interferes with sleep, benefit from the use of CPAP machines while they're losing the weight to treat the underlying cause, hopefully. But what if apnea isn't your problem? What if you just have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep? In my book, How Not to Diet, I have a whole section on sleep enhancement, where I go through the 4 rules of sleep conditioning, the 4 rules of sleep hygiene. What if you follow those guidelines, but still can't get...
I'll get back to it. I promised I'll get back to it. So back to the slides.
Okay, next one. Okay, here's what happens when you do get your good sleep. Increased focus and creativity, because you've had those nightly, especially REM sleep. Sleep has an architecture. I have an Oura Ring. It's one of those wearable devices, and I just like it. I have a lot of fun with it. And so it will give me a sleep score every night. And it'll show me there's 4 stages of sleep. There is deep sleep, but and then there's sort of normal sleep, and then there's REM sleep. And REM sleep is rapid eye movement sleep, and that's where dreaming happens. And so I know I've had a good night's sleep if I have 1 to 2 hours of that really deep sleep, and then I don't know that I want the whole 2 hours of REM sleep, because I have the weirdest dreams sometimes, but I have that REM sleep. And so the night changes. You start with deep, deep sleep, and then you have a waking up time, And many of us wake up 2, 3 in the morning. In medieval times, that was called the second sleep. So that don't worry if you wake up then, because if you worry, guess what? You're not going to go back to sleep. So you say, oh, okay, well, I think I'll get ready for my second sleep. And so what I do when that happens is I'll put on a boring video. They have to be boring. I tell people that I like a YouTube channel called Get Sleepy. And it's this British guy who reads boring stories to you. And he'll say, welcome to Get Sleepy, the podcast where we relax, listen, and get sleepy. And then he'll tell one of the tales, I don't know, I never hear the end of them, but something about a small family that lived in this house. And sometimes he was retelling the Odyssey. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Or sometimes if I'm not in the mood for that, I want to find a boring lecture about something. So I found it last night in my second sleep. I was in the middle of the night. My dog woke me up. I put on a lecture about quantum mechanics. I don't know what he said. It was boring. Put me back to sleep. Okay. But I didn't worry about it. So, and back to how these things dance together is if you have wine before bed, if you have alcohol before bed, it completely messes with that sleep architecture. You'll go to sleep much more easily, but you don't get the deep sleep. And even though I had that wine at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I think it still affected my sleep last night. I didn't quite get the sleep score. I aimed for 95, but I only got 90. That's another way these things dance together. I drank my smoothie. I got plenty of exercise because I was up and down stairs moving things and walking my little dog. And I did all the other things. I did all my stress reduction and yoga and all of that stuff, but I still didn't sleep as well because I had that wine. So it is just not worth it. So all of these things. Oh, and the other interesting thing is about REM sleep and dreaming. I was a psychotherapist for a long time, and I worked with dreams a lot. Dreams are really important in developing creativity, and they're helping you work through things during the day. You know, you've had something. Have you ever had something happen and then you dream about it at night? Your unconscious mind is trying to work through things. And also sometimes dreams can be sort of transformative, that you have a big dream, one about the sky opening up or a visitation from some alien visitor or something like that. And so they can be very transformative. So that REM sleep, whether or not you work with your dreams or not, and whether or not you remember them, you have them. And so sometimes playing with them and remembering them can be a useful way of. One of the things I'm going to talk about tonight is, yes, we talk about social connection, but I think one of the more important things is connecting with ourselves. And if you're paying attention to your sleep and you're watching dreams, then you're getting in more contact with yourself. So, okay, next one. Okay. I'm going to start with social connection, but that's not where I'm going to end. So social connection is good for us. Being in a group like this, guess what? It's really good for you. It's one of those things. It's like you have the smoothie, you have an interaction with people. Maybe you're just getting to know them. Maybe you become good friends or good colleagues. But it's good. It helps people maintain a healthy weight, control blood sugars, helps cancer survival. It decreases heart disease deaths, decreases depression, improves PTSD, and improves overall mental health. And in all the years that I worked as a psychologist, I worked in the state hospital. I worked with people diagnosed with schizophrenia. I worked with a lot of people with depression and suicidality. The ones who were isolated were the hardest. They were just trying to depend on themselves, and they were also the scariest. But those who would develop a connection, develop some sort of network, either one friend or they'd find, sometimes they would, I worked with somebody once who was so eminently suicidal, I was sure that she would do it, but she finally got a job and started talking to people at work and got very much better. So it's really important, social connection. Next one. Okay, here's more. People with strong social connections have lower rates of anxiety and depression. There we are again. We have more resilience in the mindset. Having a connection helps manage stress, promotes a sense of belonging, fulfills a fundamental human need for connection. We are herd animals, whether we like it or not. We need each other. In a way, we are made of each other. So that's important. And then personal growth, validation, resilience, sometimes challenging. You know, if you have ever had a friend that you disagreed with and they might challenge you on something and you say, oh my goodness, I need to think about that, right? So even those challenges can be healthy. Next one. Yay, I got back to this. Okay, so now I think you can see how these are dancing together, right? And so they're all important, but these three that I'm talking about today are ones that are a little harder to address right on. So we know we can eat that apple. We know we can go for a walk around the block. We know we don't have to drink that glass of wine. That's sort of on the behavioral level. These are a little more difficult, and that's how I want to approach those tonight. So we're going to do, I don't know what order we're doing them in. So let's go to the next slide. We'll start with, oh, wait a minute. This is me and Fred. This is one of my favorite pictures. Fred, I've got pictures of me and the animals in here. Fred was donated to the farm because goats in captivity, they chopped their horns off and it was botched. And so Fred developed a really bad infection on his head and they were going to put him down. So Fred moved in and he also had a broken leg and he still has to have a lot of anti-inflammatory medications. You'll see him at the farm, those of you who come. He's the friendliest guy. I was sitting with him that day because he was sick. But he's our sort of ambassador, our goat ambassador. Next one. Okay, here I'm going to talk about two more pillars. I think these are really important for mental health and for approaching a healthy lifestyle. And so I see them both as really important, mindfulness and self-care. So what's mindfulness? What are you thinking right now? What have you been thinking during this talk? Do you ever watch your thoughts? Have you ever heard yourself say, oh my God, you're such a stupid idiot? Anybody ever hear that? Am I the only one? Or, oh my God, why'd you say that? We have these thoughts in our head. Or in the middle of the night, I'll never get back to sleep. Oh, this is terrible, right? Or maybe I know what I'm going to do tonight when I go home. Oh, I should have said that, right? I left out that part. So we've got these parts of ourselves. We've got these voices in our head, in a way. There's one teacher who talks about this as inner roommates, and they're always commenting. And so mindfulness is just becoming aware of that. That's all. Driving down the road and feeling some anxiety and thinking, what was I thinking? Oh yeah, I was thinking about how I'm almost out of gas and I have to stop and get gas. Or I was thinking that that car in front of me is being an asshole or whatever it is. And your thoughts, and I noticed out there's a book on cognitive therapy, that your thought affects how you feel as much as things that happen in the outside world. However, we can control our thoughts, right? To a degree. Right at this moment, think of a jelly donut. You know, those ones with powdered sugar okay, that's a thought, right? Now, you may have, oh, maybe I want one of those. That's a thought, right? And so as soon as we can just identify that's a thought, that's a thought. And so then when this voice comes and says, and you've got low self-esteem and this voice says you're a stupid idiot, you can say, oh, that's a thought. Do I have to think that? Maybe I could think something different. But we tend to identify, especially with this negative voice, the inner critic up there. We've all got one. It's very, very common. Freud began it all. He calls it the superego. We tend to call it more now this inner critic. And it develops as a way to kind of help us deal with the world. Back in the 60s and 70s, there was a book called I'm Okay, You're Okay. And it talked about critical parent, adult, and child. And so in all of us, we've got an adult. We're all here, right? We've got an adult, and we have an inner child who maybe gets her feelings hurt or he feels bad about things. And then we have this inner critical parent. And especially if we've been raised with critical parents or abusive parents, that critical voice can be very destructive. And that's one of the first things that when I worked a lot with trauma that to deal with is you don't have to listen to that. Now, don't argue with it. Don't argue with it. But there it is again. There's that inner critic. And I had a client years ago who she was working with it, and she didn't like the name Joan. So she named her inner critic Joan. And she'd come in and I'd say, okay, what happened this week? And she'd say, oh, Joan was busy. Joan told me all this terrible stuff. And it's like, well, I think that's maybe something you might want to think about that differently? So that's one example. I had another client who was having panic attacks, and very severe panic attacks. And she was maybe 40 at the time. And she'd been having panic attacks since she was 20. And she had to plan her life. She couldn't go over bridges. In classrooms, she had to sit at the back. She had to plan her grocery store trips very carefully because she might have to leave. And her father, years ago, she had this coping mechanism. Her father had given her a Valium pill in case things got really bad. She still carried it around 20 years later, that Valium pill, in case she needed it. And so I said, well, what are you thinking when you're having a panic attack? And she said, well, I'm thinking I might go crazy. I'm thinking I might end up in a mental hospital. I'm thinking this is terrible. And I just let that one go because I knew she was smart. She came back a week later and she said, you know what? Maybe my thoughts are making me more anxious. And I said, well, maybe they are. What else could you think? And so she decided during her next panic attack, she would think they've never lasted more than 3 to 5 minutes. So this one would probably be over by then. So that was her new thought that she put in. And so panic attacks started going away. She decided, she was very unusual. She didn't want them to go away because she was an artist and they were a source of creativity for her. So she stopped therapy because she didn't want them to go away. But I met her a couple of years later on the street and they had gone away. She was coping. And in spite of that fact, she was coping. But that's the power of thought. And you begin with knowing what you're thinking. So that's what meditation is about. Meditation isn't about stopping thoughts. Nobody in the entire history of the human race has been able to stop thoughts. We do not stop thoughts, but we can step aside and watch them rather than being them. And that if you practice, you could practice maybe 5 minutes. Let me sit and see what I'm thinking. A really interesting exercise to do when you're meditating is, I wonder what the next thought will be. That really stops things for a bit. I wonder what my next thought will be. What came up for me just then is like, Pam, you're being stupid. That was my next thought. So I don't listen to anyone. Yeah. In fact, my best example was 3 years ago, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, second sleep, right? And I was lying there, not particularly stressed, but, getting back. And then I had this thought. This thought came to me. You're just a useless old woman. And you know what I did? I laughed. I thought that was the stupidest thought anybody could have. So you have that choice of saying, if your inner critic or your voice says something like that, but you can't do that until you're aware of it. So do practice. Even when you're driving, you don't even have to start a mindfulness, although there are lots of apps online. I use something called Insight Timer, which I've used for years because it's got cool stuff on it and nice music and that kind of stuff. And just listen to a couple of mindfulness apps. So that needs to be in place. That's an inner pillar that's so necessary. And another thing is this constructive worry. Does anybody else worry occasionally? Do you find yourself going over and over and over and over and over again? What am I going to do about this? Oh, this is terrible. Now, wait a minute. Okay, stop and change. Rather than just worrying, sit down and write down a plan for what you're going to do. Make it constructive worrying, right? Just say, okay, I'm worrying about this talk. Let's say I don't worry about talks anymore. I've given way too many. But let's say I was worrying about this talk. Okay, instead of just worrying, let me stop, sit down. Okay, what's the timeline? When do I need to have it done by? What do I need to sort of plan back from that? And so just stop and do it rather than doing the worry. So if you're one of those anxious, worrying people, make it constructive. Sit down and make a plan. Sit down and do something about it. So mindfulness. Just know what you're thinking. That's all. And I remember there's one great spiritual teacher who said that when he was a kid, he thought it was very weird, all these adults around who would believe what they were thinking. So get beside your thoughts. Just watch them, especially that inner critic. So that's one. And the other is self-care. And that comes back to connecting with ourselves. Especially the women in the room can recognize this. We're taught to take care of others, right? And often with a sense of sacrifice. I think it happens with men too, that I need to take care of this. I need to do all of these things. I need to do all these things before I can do anything for myself. Stop. If you find yourself thinking, I need to do all of this other stuff before I can do anything for myself, just stop and do something for yourself. Not ice cream, but maybe like today I was kind of stressed because we're still doing that move kind of thing. And I thought, no, I'm going to go lie down on the bed for half an hour. I need that. Because my little dog, in this move, I got my granddaughter's dog, who I adore. But the first day I got her, we walked 6 miles and we were just out there. I got lost in Armitage Park. It was a day. So Addie's keeping me really walking, but so that's kind of self-care too, right? Having an animal, having Addie sleep with me, and even going for short walks, but find what's nurturing for you. And it can be a nap. It can be a walk. It can be a bubble bath. It can be, try not to make it wine or any of these things, but what would you tell a good friend to do in your situation? Yeah. Would you tell them to worry or drink wine? What would you do? You would give them some support, right? If a good friend was having trouble, you would say, hey, let's talk about it. So if you're having trouble, talk about it with yourself. What's going on here? Make friends with yourself. And then yourself might say, I'm just really tired. Okay, what do you want to do? And it's like, what am I thinking? I want to go to the library. I love books. I love just being in the company of books. I'm going to go to the library and wander around. I live out near Oakway Center, so the Sheldon Library branch is I just like to go be there. Sometimes that's what I'll do. I'll walk down there and just be there. Maybe for you, it's something like, I don't know, any other ideas? What would you guys do for self-care? What? Go to the hot springs? Yeah. Love you out in nature. A lot of people, it's being in nature. Anybody else? Music. That's a good one. Yeah. Just listen to your favorite piece of music. I was a classical musician. I'm a flute player. And so I like to put on the Dvorak New World Symphony loud as I can do it. And just be there and let the music. Yeah. Anybody else have any ideas? What? Play with your animals. Yeah. Yeah, we do know that when you pet your animals, your blood pressure goes down. And my little dog, however, she literally came with a ball in her mouth. And so she will chase balls until she drops. So yeah, playing with animals, maybe calling a friend. I haven't contacted somebody. Maybe it's going down and getting a very, 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 very wonderful and expensive piece of fruit, right? Just something that, what would you tell your best friend to do if they were going through what you're going through? Okay, so that kind of self-care. And these 2 pillars, I guess I'll have to say lifestyle medicine now has 8 pillars, but these are the internal pillars that we need to do all the other things. So you don't punish yourself because you didn't go for the run, right? It's like, okay, I didn't go for the run. What would you tell your friend? Well, maybe tomorrow, or what got in the way today? Maybe we can problem solve it differently. So yeah, Yeah. 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 So that's a really good comment that sometimes, well, I can't afford it. I want to have my nails done. That would feel good, but I don't have the money. Maybe I could just sit down and do my own. Or a massage. Well, I can't afford a massage, but maybe I can give a little self massage, or maybe I can trade shoulder rubs with a friend, right? Yeah, those are really good ones. Um, so when these two are in place, the others are going to come more easily. So what's the next one, Ed? I don't know. Oh, stress. Okay. All right. So stress happens. Just like when I go and shovel shit at the farms, shit happens, right? Okay, next one. Okay. So is all stress bad? This is an important, we need stress in our lives. If we didn't have stress, we'd just be all sleeping all day, right? And I have a picture of a violin up there because you, if anybody knows about a violin or a guitar, that the string has to be pulled just the right amount to be in tune. If it's pulled way too tight, you get, a horrible screeching. Well, first of all, it's out of tune, a horrible screeching sound. If it's too loose, you get no sound at all. So we need to find that place of stress, which is good for us. And it's going to be different for different people. I thrive on a pretty good amount of stress. I like giving myself things to do, challenging things, because I do pretty well. My daughter, absolutely the opposite. She has to have like almost no stress. So we're just all very, very different on that. And so distress is when it's too much. The string's too tight. Eustress is when it's just right, right? And that's where we want it to be. And what's important is how you think about the stress can transform it. Show me the next slide. I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, I'm not going to do that yet. So important thing about how you think about stress. So again, you're awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Stressful. I've got to get up at 5. I don't know if I'll go back to sleep. What are you thinking? If you're thinking, this is terrible, this is awful, I might as well get up, I'm such a loser, whatever it is you're thinking, you're not going to go back to sleep. But if it's like, oh, okay, I'm awake, I may or may not go back to sleep. Maybe I'll do what Pam said. Maybe I'll put on a boring lecture on quantum mechanics. Or maybe I'll look up Get Sleepy. Or maybe I'll just read a book, right? I have a good book I'm reading. Maybe I'll just read it. And if I get sleepy, I will. And if I don't, I won't. And that's true. I mean, that's the truth of it, isn't it? If you don't stress about it, you'll either get sleepy again or you won't. But if you do stress about it, you won't get sleepy. Okay, so again, and the other thing is, let's say you have a big event coming up that you're trying to prepare for. Maybe it's a talk, maybe it's a presentation, maybe it's just a party that you're planning a party. What are you thinking? Are you thinking, this is too much, it's awful, I'll never get through this? Oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh, let's see, I've got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And all that stress response that video shows start coming up. Okay, all right, I've got this big event coming up. What do I do? Okay, let's stop and think about it. We could do the constructive worry. We could say, okay, I've got this event coming up. What can I do now to prepare for it? And it'll be okay. Again, be your best friend. This is about not only social connection, but connection with yourself. And when you respect yourself and take care of yourself and take care and do care about yourself, whoever the hell that is, will respond, that you'll start feeling better. So that's an important thing, is it's not just what happens, it's how we think about it. So let's say you're in a minor car accident. That's stressful, right? And maybe it was your fault. Ugh, that's really stressful. What are you going to do? Oh my God, is this terrible? Or am I going to say, whoa, I messed that one up. Let me see what I can do to help fix it. This is going to be expensive. I wish I hadn't done it. But let me call my friend. That's the other thing about stress. Let me call my friend and see if they can help me, right? So stress actually can lead us for reaching out for that social connection. So that's important then about what you how you think about stress, in a sense, determines whether or not it's stressful. If you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you think it's awful and you don't go back to sleep, that's stressful. If I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I think, oh, I wonder if I'll get my second sleep tonight, that's not stressful. It's the same event. Okay, now we can show this video. Yeah, this gives some more examples because I haven't even talked about breathing.
Do you have the gut to defy muscle loss? Spindle Muscle Plus, strength that starts in your gut.
Get more at Kiefer Mazda with the Mazda More to Move You sales event.
Bang the gong.
3 Mazda.
Don't aim to live a stress-free life. Aim to live in the stress sweet spot. Think of stress like an inverted U-curve. Too little stress, and we fail to act. But too much stress, and we feel paralyzed. Paralyzed by an overwhelming number of things to do, people to impress, or bad events to avoid. When we enter this paralysis zone, most of us turn to our phones or food to hide from stress. But avoiding stress is like putting your problems on a credit card. They just compound, and you pay more for them later. Instead of running from stress, we must take a few quick but critical steps to calm down, see a problem clearly, and then do something about it. Here are 5 quick steps to help you back away from too much stress and find that sweet spot where you're calm, collected, and motivated. Step 1. Embrace it. Believing stress is bad does more harm than the stress itself. An 8-year study of 30,000 Americans revealed that people who reported high stress had a 43% higher risk of dying. At those rates, stress kills more people than skin cancer, HIV, and homicide combined. But here's the kicker. That increased risk of dying completely disappeared if participants didn't see stress as harmful. In fact, those who viewed stress as neutral or something good had a lower death rate than people who experienced very little stress in their lives. Dr. Kelly McGonigal explains in her book, The Upside of Stress, that when you see stress as bad, your blood vessels constrict and stress accumulates. But when you view stress as a performance enhancer, your blood vessels relax and widen, sending more oxygen and performance-enhancing hormones, like DHEA and oxytocin, to your brain and body. DHEA helps you learn faster, while oxytocin gives you the courage to reach out for help. So when you feel stress, love it. Think, this stress is a sign that I care, and embracing stress increases my ability to seek help and remember valuable lessons. Stress response step number 2, box it. Your breath is the fastest way to change how you feel. Breathe in for 4 seconds and then rapidly exhale out to feel a shot of stress. Now breathe in for 4 seconds again, but gradually let all the air out and you'll feel a wave of relaxation. Longer exhales calm you down, while shorter exhales amp you up. If we want to operate in the stress sweet spot, we must optimize our breathing so we are alert and motivated, but not anxious. In the book Unbeatable Mind, former Navy SEAL commander Mark Devine explains that Navy SEALs use box breathing to stay deadly calm in life or death situations. Before entering a terrorist compound to release a handful of hostages, they breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, then repeat. So, the next time you encounter a problem that causes a stress spike, go directly into box breathing mode while you move in to take out the problem like a Navy SEAL. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold, and repeat at least 6 times. This breathing rhythm will stop your mind from racing and generate a powerful sense of control. Stress response step number 3, get moving. Lack of movement leaves us vulnerable to stress, but once moving, it's hard for stress to pin us down. It's like a sniper struggling to hit a moving target. We are built to move. Our brains largely evolved to deal with complex movements. So if you want your brain's help to find a way out of your stressful situation, get moving. I like to create a steady rhythm of action and generate positive momentum by routinely counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. a behavior hack I learned from Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule. The countdown gets me out of my chair and walking to the kitchen to get a drink of water, or going outside to get some fresh air, or going to the garage to do a brief workout. The key is to waste little time hunting for the perfect move and just move. Stress response step number 4, get present. In a stressful state, your thoughts become horror stories about what things mean and what's going to happen. These stories amplify fear and anxiety. Ruminating about what might happen doesn't help you complete the very next action to eliminate your problem. Thankfully, there's an easy trick to silence these stress-amplifying stories. Look for the voice in your head. We all have a voice in our head that we call the self. But when you turn your attention toward it and look for exactly where it resides in your head, you can't find it. For a brief moment, the voice in your head disappears and you experience a moment of silence. For the few seconds you're free of mental chatter, tune into one of your 5 senses to stay present and not be stressed by thoughts of the future. Focus on the colors in your visual field, or tune into your hearing and try to hear the faintest sounds, or tune into the feeling of tension in your neck or the wind against your face. If you're immersed in what you see, hear, feel, taste, or smell, you stop the onslaught of negative thoughts and stay locked into the present moment. I like to quickly recall the 5 senses by remembering the consonants in the acronym, SHIFTS. Stress response step number 5, be thankful. Imagine tomorrow you're stuck in traffic and late for a critical meeting. Your heart is pounding and stress is building. Now imagine you're 90 years old, sitting in a wheelchair, struggling to remember your grandchildren's names. That 90-year-old you would trade places with stressed out you in a heartbeat. I call this technique self-envying because you're envying your current self from your future self's perspective. I learned this technique from William Irvine's book, A Guide to the Good Life. When you look back at today's problems from the perspective of your future, much more frail self, you realize how lucky you are to have the problems you have. If you're stressed out by a work deadline, remember that 90-year-old you would be thrilled to have a sharp mind capable of meeting deadlines. If you're in a heated relationship conflict, realize that elderly you would give anything to have the energy and opportunity to make up with someone they love. So when anxiety grips you, ask, what would 90-year-old me give to have this problem? In the end, the next time you feel stress building up at work or at home, love the feeling and start box breathing. Then get moving, be present, and be thankful. Those were my top 5 steps for managing stress. If you'd like a PDF summary of these steps, click the link in the description.
Any comments, questions about stress? Yeah. Okay, so breathe. I have a little problem with box breathing because I do know. Remember how he said, try this. Take a breath in and sort of do that. Okay, now how do you do? Okay, just pay attention. Now take the breath in. Breathe out very, very slowly. Different feeling in your body, isn't it? And so, heart rate variance. You know about heart rate variance? That's a good thing. All of a sudden, I'm supposed to have a variant heart rate. When you inhale, your heart rate goes up. When you exhale, it goes down. And the bigger that difference, the healthier it is. I don't know why. But, so if you I do that. I used to play with this because I would think, okay, when people were taking my blood pressure, or my pulse, let me breathe out the whole time. Because then they'll think I have a really slow pulse. But you can try that with your pulse. Just, breathe in. And then breathe out slowly. And you can feel the difference in your pulse. And so inhaling, on the exhale, if the exhale is longer than the inhale, that will begin to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest or tend and befriend. So if you find yourself stressed, you can do the box breathing if that's what you want. But I do something like 4, 7, 8. So I'll breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. Now you have to build up to, I'm a yoga teacher, so I practice a lot of breathing. So that you can inhale And then just exhale, just practice exhaling as slowly as you can. And do that for at least 6 to 10 breaths, and you will find a difference. So that's another one that, and I think, what's the next one, Ed? Oh, no, stop. Okay. I don't know. Here's more about this, transform the stress into a challenge, like he said, about anxiety. It turns out that there's no difference in our nervous system between being excited and being anxious. We still have that same constriction of blood vessels. We have that same increase in heart rate. If you were getting ready to go on the world's biggest, what are those roller coaster things, you would, you'd be excited. And if all of a sudden I said, get up here and give a talk, you'd be anxious, all right? But that's the same underlying nervous system. So I would tell my clients, you're not nervous, you're not anxious, you're just excited. What's the difference? Again, it's just naming it differently. Again, this journaling thing is a way, that's that constructive worry. Again, making friends with yourself. Let me see what's some I don't journal a whole lot. And when I do, it's very sort of random, but sometimes you could write, what's important today? Write a prompt. This is important today. And then see what comes up. Connecting with others, and then we'll go to the next one. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, this is, these are, they're so cute. This is, actually there's 2 white goats there. There's twins. They're Lennon and Bowie, after John Lennon and David Bowie. And then there's Tuve, and then the pig behind is Pickles. And Pickles will sit for you. But here's another way of breathing. So take your right hand and put 2 fingers between your eyebrows. Okay, now take your ring finger of that hand and close the left nostril. Breathe in through the right nostril. Hold for a minute, change and breathe out. Put the thumb over and breathe out through that left nostril. Okay, breathe in through the left nostril. Close, breathe out through the right nostril. Breathe in through the right nostril. Close, breathe out through the left nostril. Breathe in through the left. Close and breathe out through the right. And then stop. And how are you feeling? It changes things. This is I learned this in yoga. This is called alternate nostril breathing. And I was very excited to find out that modern studies have actually shown that this balances the 2 brain hemispheres. So maybe you're, sit in a doctor's office like this. Who cares what you look like? Okay, next. Sleep. All right. This is more about, I've talked about the importance of sleep. How do you get to sleep? This comes actually, Will Bolsewitz is a gastroenterologist who wrote a book called Plant Powered. He has a second book called Plant Powered Plus, and that's where this comes from. That his 3 rules, now Gregor has 4, and we've got how to diet back there, so you can look up Gregor's 4 rules, but these made a lot of sense to me. More light in the morning, less night in the evening, tight meal times, only during daylight, and sleep consistency. Okay, think of your body as a toddler. Okay, you're trying to put a 3-year-old to sleep. Do you rev them up and run them around and then say, now go to bed? No, you're not going, and your body's exactly that way. So, and the more light in the morning. So there is this thing called I wrote it down. I knew I would forget. I wrote it down. I'm only a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. Suprachiasmatic nucleus. Suprachiasmatic nucleus. Isn't that great? And it measures light. So in the morning, if you're exposed to bright light, it brings up cortisol. Cortisol is not terribly a bad thing always. When our cortisol levels are extended, that's bad for us. But we need cortisol. So you get up, and this is easy in Oregon in the summer, right? A little harder in the winter. I get up with my little dog. I was out at 6 o'clock this morning, and little Addie and I, she could walk the feet off of me, and lots of sunlight, right? And so that brings up the cortisol, the suprachiasmatic, that thing brings up the cortisol, gets you moving. But at night, when the lights go down, what that signals is bringing up melatonin. So if you're like in bright light all day, your brain doesn't know, wait a minute, where the hell are we? But if you have this bright light in the morning, bring up the cortisol, and then toward evening, start turning lights off. Don't look at bright screens. Now, this thing about whether or not you look at a screen or not at night, some people are really ultra sensitive to looking at their iPad or their phone right before bed. I'm not. It doesn't seem to bother me. But pay attention if that's true for you, that maybe you turn out the lights, you start turning down things, you go to bed at the same time. That's one of the things my ring tells me. If I'm not getting what it wants is sleep consistency. It knows my chronotype. We all have different chronotypes. It says you need to go to bed between 9:30 and 10:30. And I listen to my ring, right? So I usually go to bed before that. I'm usually asleep before my chronotype says, but it's consistent. It's every night. There is a ritual. When you have your toddler, what do? You have a bath, you have jammies, you have a book, you have teddy bears. What do you do with your body? Well, you turn down the lights, things get calmer. Maybe you put on music, maybe you take a shower or a bath. Maybe I always make my bed in the morning, not because I'm a neat person. I am not a neat person, but I like to get into a made bed. It feels like somebody's taking care of me. Somebody made my bed this morning, even if it was me, right? So, so that there's a ritual. So set up a ritual. And so the other thing he says about this is that the immune system is nocturnal. So at night, when we're resting, is when the immune system is like cleaning things out and doing all of those things. So any questions about that, about sleep? Look at Gregor's book as well. His are just a little bit different. I thought these were just a little simpler, but everyone will tell you, set up a ritual. Next one, Ed, let's see what it is. Okay, yeah. Create a relaxing bedtime routine, limit stimulants. I don't know about you. I used to be able to drink coffee and go to sleep. Now I have a cup of coffee in the morning. That's it. If I have coffee at noon, it might even affect me. So we're different, and difference changes throughout the lifespan. Regular exercise. I've been sleeping really well since I got this little dog. Manage your stress. And then what Gregor says in that video that we saw the beginning of, there's been research studies that show that lettuce seed, they actually gave pregnant women capsules with lettuce seed in them, and their insomnia improved versus placebo. Kiwi fruit and tart cherries are other things that you can try. Tart cherry juice, something like that. These are things that seem to help sleep. And you can look up Gregor's video on sleep as well. So are there any questions on sleep? What? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I didn't talk about that. Yeah. And I'm not going to talk too much about food because we got doctors who talk about food, but I practice intermittent fasting. So I usually I eat about 5 p.m. and I don't eat anymore. And what I find is that totally improves my sleep. It might not for you, but again, you're going to make friends with yourself. You're going to get to know yourself. And you may say, oh, she's full of shit. That doesn't work for me. My daughter will tell me I'm full of shit because if she doesn't have her peanut butter pretzels before she goes to bed, she won't sleep. So we have a disagreement about that. So, but look at yourself. And for me, that really works to have about an 8-hour eating window. But I'll let you guys talk about that in a few minutes. Oh, the lettuce seed and stuff you'd eat at night. Yeah. So the lettuce seed is just a capsule. Yeah. All right. Yeah. But I think a glass of tart cherry juice, I actually tried that once and it worked. So that's something to do. Okay, next one. Next one. Okay, this is another technique. It's called cognitive shuffling. If your Get Sleepy podcast doesn't work, or your boring lecture on quantum mechanics doesn't work, this has actually been tested in practice, that you choose a random words, and here it says apple, chair, ocean, number random, and you visualize, create a mental image for each word to enhance the distraction. And you continue the process. So you're lying in bed and you think, okay, I'm going to try this cognitive shuffling. I'm going to do apple, dog, horse, tree, whatever. But take your time. Apple. Create a mental image of an apple. Is it Granny Smith or is it a delicious apple? Is it cut or is it full? Is it polished? Spend some time. Okay. Okay, then what's your next one? Maybe your next one is dog. What breed of dog is it going to be? Do you see how boring this is? You're trying to bore yourself to sleep. So I heard this guy on a podcast and I go, well, that would work. It mentally distracts you, so your brain's not doing its normal, its default thing. And it mimics the sleep onset because it replicates the micro dreams that happen just before you fall asleep. I don't know about that, but that's what he says. So I think it's worth a try. So just think about a number of objects and try creating a mental image for each one. And if you have a lot of insomnia, you might have a long list. And let me know how it works. Okay, that'd be great. All right, next one. Okay, and this one again is just exhaling and inhale. Well, we did that. Okay, next one. Oh, okay, this is the farm. This is Thanksgiving at the farm. We set out a table and somebody that year baked pumpkins. I brought, the one on the front left, that's Johnny Rose, and he ate a whole bowl of cranberries, which I thought somehow was justice of some kind. And we invite all the turkeys around and give them the biggest treats that we can give them. And it's the best Thanksgiving I have ever had in my life was dealing. And we have, gosh, how do we have? Maybe 6 or 8 turkeys. There's Johnny Rose and his wife, Maura. There is Flora, who's a big old one, again, rescued from a slaughterhouse. Figgy, a couple of others that are semi-wild, River. So that's just Thanksgiving at the farm. Okay, next one. Connections. Okay, next. No, I'm not going to do that one. Go to the next one. Okay, so I talked earlier about social connection, and we all know that that's important. Now, if you have trouble with that, join this group or create a connection or go to some group that you're interested in, that you have interest in. But connect with yourself in a kind and loving way. And this is what I found from many years of clinical practice, that if you can feel your own pain, then that kind of loosens the bond of this inner critic. If you can just sit and cry about something that happened without judgment. Now we have this voice going in our heads. You're crying too much. Oh, I had many clients say, I'm afraid if I start crying, I'll never stop. I said, nobody has ever died from crying, but people have died from trying not to. And that's true. So let yourself cry, let yourself feel without judgment. And then we can begin to sort of loosen these bonds of shame, because every one of us in this room has had some shame. We have been shamed, maybe by bad parenting, but maybe by some things that happened at school. We always tend to blame parents. I think schools get a lot more blame than that we feel ashamed of ourselves and don't want to share ourselves. But if we can begin to start sharing ourselves with ourselves, then it's like, oh, maybe I'm not so crazy. maybe I can talk to my friend about this, talk about something I've never talked about. So, so then here's other ways, sort of concrete ways to begin. Connect with your body, do some exercise, do some breath work, do some very simple yoga. Yoga doesn't have to be standing on your head. Okay. Yoga can be just lifting your arms up in slow and mindful movements. So I teach this in my yoga class. So I will do it with both hands usually, but bring your palms out and then just very, very slowly inhale as you lift the arm up and bring it up there and just hold it up there. And close your eyes. Inhale. And then on a slow exhale, bring the arm down very slowly, paying very good attention to the shoulder and what you might be feeling. And then inhale, bring it up again. All the way up, coordinating the breath. And this time, exhale as you lean over to the other side. Yeah, just a little bit of a side stretch. And then up. And exhale, bring that arm down. And then stop and pay attention. How do the two arms feel different? They're a little bit different now, aren't they? Yeah. You just did yoga. That's how simple it is. And you can do that on your own. And look up yoga, what do you call them? Videos. Yeah. There's a lot of good ones on YouTube. You can go on an all walk. Do you know what an all walk is? You go out and you think you're looking for something that just gives you a sense of, oh my God, how beautiful. You ever done that? And if you go out with this intent of seeing what is really beautiful out there, you will find beauty in such unexpected places. Like I never noticed how pretty that weed was. Or, I've walked down the street a million times. I've always kind of walked the same way, but my new little dog took me on the other side of the street. Oh my gosh. We're the same street, but it was the other side is very, very different. And it was like, oh, that was really fun. You can practice meditation if you want. Again, all those meditation apps. Or set up some sort of self-care routine. Whatever it is, like a nap in the afternoon. That's a good one. All right. Okay, next one. All right, so now I'm going to get to connecting even more than that, connecting more deeply. As we connect with others and with our deepest selves, we find that self-compassion flowers into compassion for others. You cannot be compassionate for others, not truly, until you can be compassionate with yourself. And it will blend over. So as soon as I learned, as soon as you can say, I've been through a lot of bad stuff in my life and I've done pretty good, and begin to have that compassion, then you can truly begin to have it for other people. And then we can begin to connect more deeply with others, with the natural world and with animals. Okay. So this is Stevie. Stevie really loves you. And Stevie will come up and just rub his face on you and everything. But he forgets he's got these big, huge horns. He's almost torn my overalls off me a couple of times because the horn catches on it. And that's Lennon and Bowie, the twins. And then behind him is, I believe that's Tuve. Tuve came from a petting zoo. So when we can really then begin to connect with the weed down the street or the animal at the farm, then we can begin to feel something deeper. I realized that when I became vegan, that all my life I'd had a sense that killing animals was wrong. I was like everybody in this room. I'd been told. I remember when I was 8, we lived in Georgia. We lived near the University of Georgia agricultural farm, and they had calves out in the yard. And I made friends with a calf, and of course the calf had been removed from its mother. And I asked my mother, well, doesn't she miss his mother? Doesn't she miss her mother? And my mother said, oh, no, they don't. So, but we know now they do. They cry, they scream for their mom when they're taken away. But I believed it. I bought into all the stuff. But when I became vegan, that just opened up something inside of me. that I could be around these animals. The animals know if you're vegan or not. They can smell it, they know. And it just opened up in me this whole new sense of well-being, of being able to connect with them, and then being able to connect with however you want to put it, God or nature in the biggest sense. That's something that can give you. Let's look at the next one, Ed. Here we go. My favorite video. Slide. Yeah, there's one more. There we go. So this is my favorite picture. That's Romeo and Milo and Charlie. And then we have down there Mama, and that must be Tuve again. No, I think that's yeah, I think that's Tuve. And so all of you are invited to the farm next week. So Misty and I, who Misty owns the farm, at 11 o'clock next Wednesday morning. It's in the newsletter, and it will be again. You're invited to just come and meet the animals, and we'll have lots of treats that you can give them. And there's been about 10 or 12 people interested so far, which just warms the cockles of my heart. So you can let me know or not. If you'd like to come down 11 o'clock next Wednesday and meet everybody absolutely in person. And if you're least bit interested and would like to come shovel shit, you can go with me at 9. But yeah. It's called Welcome Home Farm Sanctuary. And it's online, and the address is included, will be included in the newsletter. And then if anybody's interested in volunteering or donating, that would be great. Misty told me that she usually charges $100 for this visit, but she said, for you, Pam, it's free. So, but if any of you would like to donate, it's certainly not expected or anything. Plant-Based Providers is donating $50 for part of it. But if you'd like to donate, that would also be good. But hopefully you just all come down at 11 next Wednesday. Okay. Any questions? I have burbled on long enough. I'm tired of listening to me. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Please email me. I'm in the newsletter. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Or you can come down for a private visit. Just contact me if you're interested in the farm. Yeah. About what? Matthew Walker. We've got it back there on the table if you want to check it out. Yeah. Right. And also it'll be in the newsletter because you can contact me if you'd like to come, but you don't have to. I'm really excited the people who are coming though. Anybody else wants to come, it'll be really fun. It'll be hot, but you'll get to meet everybody in real life person and pet the goats and sit with Fred and listen to a turkey purr. Not too many people can say they've done that. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, and we'll see you. Yeah, there I am. Yeah, that's me and Buster. You're coming. You're both coming. Oh, I don't know. I just told her I'm not sure I can come. So I have to go home and make sure I can change whatever.
And we'll come next week too. Next week is nutritional myths uncovered. Yeah, thank you. Sometimes we'll see you tomorrow. So we're giving back.